Salone Discoveries from KID-AFANDiscoveries and me na Justice Tejan today back we come na the Ministry of Information and Communication who say every Thursday inside the week they can update the public with informations and a way can come out from ministry departments and agencies. Well, today we dey also again for can discover whose ministry, department or agency get for come updates the public.
As we sent out the notice to members of this fourth estate that we'll be looking at issues bordering around the ongoing registration in the country that has provoked so many social media questions, etc. And journalists being members of the fourth estate, you serve as intermediary between citizens and government. We rely on you to educate, sensitize, and as well, conscientize members of the public regarding activities of the ECSL. So we are lucky to have people not at the at that political level, however, but those that interact with media on day-to-day basis for you to ask pertinent questions and to have updates on what is ongoing. So you have all the best to have the bits you want today. So with us we have CAA Jones, who is the Assistant Director of Media and Communication at ECSL with us here. And with us also is Mr. Raymond N. George, who is the Director of Media and Communications at the ECSL. So now give the platform to Mr. George to update us regards the ongoing registration process. And you will have time to ask your questions and comments. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Members and officials of the Ministry of Information and Communications, members of the Fourth Estate, my colleague, Mr. Jones, I bring you greetings on behalf of the Chief Electoral Commissioner, Commissioners and Management of the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone. And I want to, on behalf of the Commission, also congratulate Sierra Leoneans for going through the electoral voter registration process in a peaceful manner and for heeding to our calls for them to come out and be part of the voter register, which the Commission will be using to conduct the 24th June 2023 elections. I also want to tender an apology on behalf of the Commissioner, the Chief Electoral Commissioner and the Commissioners for not being here today to deliver this notes in this press conference. They are currently in a meeting in which they are planning the way forward for the additional days that has been declared by them and looking at other logistical arrangements. However, the Media and Communications Department is here, myself and Mr. Jones, to do justice to the questions that will come up. Now, the voter registration process. If we could remember, in March 2022, His Excellency the President proclaimed the date for voter registration exercise to commence across Sierra Leone. And immediately, the Commission came out with statements regarding the exercise. We did inform the general public that the exercise will be done in two phases. The first phase, which will run from the 3rd of September to the 17th of September, And the second phase, which will start on the 20th of September and ends on the 4th of October. Indeed, we have gone through both phases successfully. The Commission is satisfied with the outcome of the registration process in the midst of the challenges that came up, and we want to say that we had measures in place to address all of those challenges. In the first phase, the Commission opened 1,815 centers across Sierra Leone. And we came out with a press statement to actually acknowledge the fact that on the first 2 days, 95% of those centers were fully operational and were capturing details of would-be registrants that showed up at the center. Now, we also came out and said that the 5% was due to externalities. That is, things that were out of our control. Remember, we are working in the rainy season. The road network in some districts are very bad. We have broken bridges. We had flooded roads. And that led to delays in transporting the machines, the materials, and the staff to the 5% of the affected centers. Nevertheless, we also realized that within the first 2 days, we had problems with the software. Now, it was programmed to capture 18 years and above on polling day. Little did we realize that we never considered those people that were 17 years, that will be 18 on polling day. These were the first-time voters. And there was complaints from all over the district because it affected every district within Sierra Leone. Immediately, we set ourselves to the task. We got the software developer to update the system, and we immediately went out to ensure that every machine that was deployed in the centers were updated to ensure that those that are 17 now, but will be 18, were captured. So that was for the first 2 days, and it was only for the first phase. That phase ended, and we came out with figures for 80% of the centers that were opened. And I'm sure those figures were made public, and I have no need for me to go over them here. Except if questions will come up, then we'll go into that one. The second phase started on the 20th of September and ended on the 4th of October as planned. And most of the challenges I mentioned in the earlier phase 1 process were no longer visible in the second phase. And at the end of the second phase, the Commission went round. When I say the Commission, I mean the CEC and the commissioners. All of them were out, up and about in their regions, and they came back. They observed the process, they interviewed the party agents at the center. They were out there, they observed how the processes were unfolding, how actually the staff were treating the registrants, and they also observed the procedures. And when they came back, they had an emergency meeting. And in that meeting, it was decided that based upon the legal framework, there was need for those centers that were not opened for the first 2 days to be given the additional days. And because the software had some problems within those first 2 days, and that affected every center that was open in the first phase. All 1,815 centers were affected. The Commission on Monday had an emergency PPLC meeting. That is meeting with the political parties liaison committee. And in that committee, we have political party leaders, we have CSOs, we have democratic institutions, and we had the observer groups. And the press statement was delivered on that day. I will now take you through the press statement. The public would recall that the Commission held a press conference on 7th September 2022 about the ongoing voter registration, and inter alia highlighted some challenges that affected the registration commencement in some parts of the country. Corrective measures were adopted without major interruptions to the voter registration exercise. The second phase of the voter registration exercise has been very successful, and the Commission is satisfied with the turnout and the data collection process. However, the Commission, in cognizance of the initial challenges encountered with setting up of the equipment and deployment of staff, which delayed opening of some centers across the country in the first phase of the registration process, took place. Consequently, and pursuant to Section 169 of the Public Elections Act 2022, that is Act number 17 of 2022, the Commission hereby proclaims the following. A. Extending the period of voter registration by 2 days, commencing tomorrow, 7th, and Saturday, 8th October 2022. B. The extended period will be limited to all 1,815 registration centers of the first phase. The Commission will use 2 days period, that is the 5th and the 6th of October, yesterday and today, for reconfiguration and deployment of equipment and staff. As I speak, that is currently taking place. Machines are being deployed and the staff are also being deployed to the first phase centers that were opened. So the Commission appreciates Sierra Leoneans for their peaceful participation and encourages those who have not registered to take advantage of the extended window to exercise their right to register. Stamped and signed by the Chief Electoral Commissioner. Now we will also realize that there has been so many issues going around the media. The Commission is currently meeting and they are considering a response to those allegations. So before you ask the questions, you have to wait so that when there is a conclusion on that issue, we will come out and you will be informed as to the Commission stance on those. We also have details coming out from exclusive newspaper this morning stating nomination fees. Now, after the end of the voter registration, we will move on to exhibition and inquiry. And those two activities will mark the end of the pre-election phase within the electoral cycle. Then we'll then move on to the electoral phase, that's the election phase, when we begin to talk about nomination, campaigning, and the elections, polling and counting. They will have announcement of results. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Public Elections Act, Act number 17 of 2022 is now out. It has been signed by the President, and it is now the law that will govern all elections in Sierra Leone. And in this document, there is an 11th schedule, which states a nomination formula, the fee for the formula for the nomination fees. It is based purely on the minimum wage in Sierra Leone. For newspapers to publish figures for now, we believe it is not right for them to do it, because we are expecting that come December this year or November, there will be the normal budget reading. And since it is based on minimum wage. If there is a change in the minimum wage, whatever figure you might have published would be affected. And the people will now hold on to that. It is not coming from the commission. If there is a change in the minimum wage before the nomination period that the commission will declare, then that figure will be changed. So we would advise that we publish the formula instead of publishing figures, so that whatever calculations that will need to be done will be based on the formula. It's just substituting the actual value in the position where they are necessary. But for us to get a clear glimpse of everything of that, I will go through it for you. It says for presidential elections in Sierra Leone, the formula is the minimum wage times 12 months times 5 years. So the minimum wage times 12 months times 5 years. So if you take the minimum wage as at the time for the nomination, and you multiply that by 12 months, and you multiply the figure again by 5 years, we will come out with what would be the nomination fees for presidential elections. For now, saying it's 36 million is premature. Member of Parliament is the minimum wage times 6 months. Minimum wage multiplied by 6 months. For Paramount Chief Member of Parliament, it is the minimum wage times 6 months also. Mayor or chairperson, minimum wage times 3 months. And councillor or village head, it is half of the minimum age. Half of the minimum wage. Okay? So that's the formula, and it is now entrenched within the laws governing elections in Sierra Leone. The Public Elections Act 2022, Act number 17 of 2022. I want to end by admonishing all Sierra Leoneans that are not yet registered to go and do so within the extended window, i.e. tomorrow and next tomorrow, Friday and Saturday. Centers that were open in the first phase will again be open at 7 a.m. in the morning and will close at 5 p.m. And we must ensure that we go with the required documents. I would want to remind them that the documents required for registration are as follows: the valid Sierra Leonean passport, a previous voter ID card, a national ID card, certificate of registration from NCRA, or a valid Sierra Leonean birth certificate. I want to also state that those who have gone through registration in the first and second phases should not go again. If you have made a mistake of going to a center that is not close to your place of ordinarily residence, don't go back to the centers because they are open now to say that I'm now going to register at the center that is close to me because it is open. It will be a multiple registration, and within the new act that we have, it is a crime, and you are liable to pay a fine of 20,000 new leones, or you pay 20 million leones, or you go to jail for 5 years. If the judge is not on your side, or the day was not favorable for you, you will still pay the fine, and then you will go to jail. So on that note, I want to thank you all for listening, and myself and Mr. Jones were here to entertain the questions. Thank you very much.
That now updates will come up from the Electoral Commission for Sierra Leone ECSL concerning the voterization process we done the carry on at the country, and as you don't hear from the director from the ECSL, don't update the public as to waiting some of the issues and also the added 2 days where they don't give to the public for complete the voterization process. This na Salone Discovery. Me na Justice Tejan, and I want to say plenty thank you to me executive producer Dr. Aisatu Kake Jallo. So till we meet again, I want to say peace.